Tonight, WWE presents tables, ladders, and chairs from inside the WWE ThunderDome inside Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida. And in this video, what we're going to talk about and preview is a match that I'm certainly very excited about, that being the FireFly Inferno Match between the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and the Viper, Randy Orton. Now, you can see the fire behind me. That's because this is going to be a FireFly Inferno match. Now, what does this match actually mean? Now, I've seen a lot of people get very excited because once we saw and heard that this was going to be an FireFly Inferno match, potentially we were going to see an Inferno match for maybe the first time since, gosh, what? Armageddon 2006. Now, if you haven't seen an Inferno match before, you may have seen them in clips, or if you're new to WWE or pro wrestling, essentially what we're going to see potentially tonight, and again, I don't know, potentially what we're going to see tonight is the ring being surrounded by fire. And in the old school Inferno matches in the Attitude Era with the likes of Kane and The Undertaker, the way to win that match, the only way to win that match, was to set your opponent on fire. If you set your opponent on fire, you won the match. However, I do not think that is the type of match we're going to see tonight. Now, if you recall and cast your minds back to SummerSlam 2013, we did see a Ring of Fire match that did involve Bray Wyatt. It involved Bray Wyatt in his version of the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt with the Wyatt family and Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, faced off against Kane in the first match of SummerSlam 2013. And it was essentially similar to an Inferno match in that the ring was surrounded by fire, but instead of burning your opponent or setting your opponent on fire to win the match, the only way to win that match was by pinfall or submission. It was just an Inferno match, again, but we're taking out the violence and arson side of things. The only way to win was by pinfall or submission. So I would suspect that that's what we're going to see tonight. Again, we don't actually have any indication on what the rules will be for this FireFly Inferno match. We don't know what the situation is going to be in terms of, are we going to have the ring being surrounded by fire? Are we going to have something different? Is it going to be an Inferno match that you set your opponent on fire to win, or do you win by pinfall or submission? We don't know. As we get closer to the show, we'll obviously find out. I would suspect it's likely to be a Ring of Fire match in the same way that the ring will be surrounded by fire, but like in that match, and unlike in the Inferno match, the way to win is by pinfall or submission. Also, though, we have seen quite a few people and some reports come out and say that potentially this could be a cinematic match. Obviously, the reason we're thinking it could be a cinematic match is that it involves Bray Wyatt, involves The Fiend, who has been involved in a couple of cinematic matches this year. The FireFly Funhouse match against John Cena at WrestleMania, of course, and the Wyatt Swamp fight at the horror show at Extreme Rules earlier this year. We did see that too. So there is a potential that it could be a cinematic match as well. Obviously, as soon as you have the word Firefly involved in it, that has led some people to think that it could be kind of maybe set inside the FireFly Funhouse, or it could be set in the warehouse in the same way that the FireFly Funhouse match was. So we could be in the warehouse like we had John Cena and The Fiend, and that could be surrounded by fire, and then that could be a way that you could win the match by setting your opponent on fire or something like that. That could also be a situation that we see at tables, ladders, and chairs. I'm not sure if we will. I think most likely we'll lean into seeing the ring actually inside the Thunderdome be surrounded by fire, and the way to win by pinfall or submission. You have to remember, there are no WWE Universe in attendance. There is no live fans in attendance. Therefore, you don't have to worry as much. You still do have to worry, of course, but you don't have to worry as much about the health and safety ramifications of having legit live fire and naked flames surrounding a ring where there are people quite close to it in the audience, or an arena to capacity full of people. You don't have that. You have a limited amount of people on a closed set in the WWE ThunderDome at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida. So maybe it's easier to actually do that kind of match where a ring is surrounded by fire. So that is why I'm leaning towards that. I think that's probably the direction that we're heading in when it comes to this FireFly Inferno match. So I would suspect it's going to be that. Again, it could be cinematic. I just think at this point, I don't know about you, I'm a little bit done when it comes to cinematic wrestling in 2020. Don't get me wrong, there is absolutely a place for cinematic wrestling, and we have seen on several occasions that arguably the match of the year was AJ Styles versus The Undertaker, which was a cinematic match. That was one of my favourite matches of the year, and I thought it was such a fitting ending for The Undertaker because it was the best match at this point in his career that he could possibly do. But regardless of that, I still do feel like cinematic wrestling, it does need to be kept special. It does need to be kept pretty infrequent, and when I say infrequent, I don't mean just every pay-per-view we have one cinematic match. It becomes old quickly, it becomes stale quickly, and we just don't need to see that at this point. So when it comes to cinematic wrestling, I don't know if I'm just a bit burnt out, pun intended. I guess you see the fire behind me, but I don't know if I'm just a little bit burnt out by it at the moment. I just don't think that we need to be seeing it all the time. And quite frankly, I would just much rather see this Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton match be something a little bit more special. I just don't think at this point, cinematic matches are still special, but are they as special as they were earlier this year? They're absolutely not. That just isn't the case. It's just not the case. So I don't know if I really want to see a cinematic match at this point. We can have them again come WrestleMania season. I don't mind seeing cinematic matches when it comes to WrestleMania, especially that we don't know the situation when it comes to WrestleMania 37 next year. Are we going to have fans? Are we not going to have fans? Things are getting better. Things are getting worse. They look like they're getting worse at the moment, especially over here in the UK. So I would think, look, let's hold off on the cinematic matches. We can revisit that at WrestleMania, especially in something like this, the Randy Orton Bray Wyatt match. Look, we almost had a kind of cinematic match before, way back when, in that House of Horrors match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton back at Extreme Rules in 2017, and look how that turned out. That wasn't the best match at all. If anything, that was pretty damn bad. So I really just don't care to see it in a cinematic form at this point. I just don't think it's needed. I really don't think it's needed. So I would much rather see this FireFly Inferno match, have the ring surrounded by fire. We can do something different in that sort of sense. When it comes to Randy Orton and The Fiend and this feud, look, apart if it's on Monday Night Raw, it's been the best thing on Monday Night Raw going. It absolutely is the best thing going on Monday Night Raw right now. When it comes to the WWE, is it the best thing going? Well, I think Roman Reigns probably takes that award right now. Nevertheless, I think this is one of the best things going in WWE. It really is just that good. The Fiend is just, I mean, he's such a great character. He's one of the best characters WWE has produced in the last 10 years, maybe more. Randy Orton, despite all of his losses recently, is doing a fantastic job as well. The 2020 he's had is absolutely superb. Now, the issue is here, I suppose, is that Randy Orton's going to lose. But why did I say that? Because The Fiend doesn't lose. The Fiend should never lose. The Fiend shouldn't have lost to Goldberg earlier this year. That was a massive mistake. And Randy Orton, unfortunately, in the eyes of Vince McMahon, isn't Goldberg. So in this match, I heavily predict that The Fiend is going to win. But that does lead to an issue when it comes to Randy Orton. This is a guy that has had arguably one of the best years he has had in WWE. Certainly the best year that he's had in a long time. Being a heel once again, being at the top of his game, being at points of this year the top heel in the business, let alone WWE, when he turned on Edge and he attacked Matt Hardy and he was kicking everyone in the skull, the return of the Legend Killer, all that kind of stuff. He had one of the best years he's ever had in WWE and was back to the top of the peak of his abilities, as you were. But the problem there is, the absolute biggest problem is that he's lost. He keeps losing, and he's lost over and over and over and over again. And when you keep losing like that, even if you're Randy Orton and you can do as many jobs as you want and you're bulletproof because you're a commodity, there is so much time and money that's been invested into you, and as a casual fan, it doesn't matter if Randy Orton wins or loses, right? After a while, even Randy Orton isn't invulnerable to losing momentum and isn't invulnerable to losing that little bit of awe and presence if he loses all the time. And you have to look at this. Randy Orton has lost a lot in 2020, especially in the last 6 months or so. Whether it's at SummerSlam, he lost. Whether it's at Payback to Keith Lee, he lost. Whether it's Clash of Champions, he lost. Yes, he won a Hell in a Cell, but then he lost a couple of weeks later. All he has done is lose at the moment. And in this feud with Bray Wyatt, it's going to be no different. He is going to lose again and again and again. And I worry about that because the issue there is, I suppose, is that he is going to face Edge. He's going to face Edge at WrestleMania. We know the plans are for Randy Orton to face Edge at WrestleMania because we're going to have the trilogy, right? At the moment, it's 1-1. It's one apiece. Randy Orton lost to Edge at WrestleMania. Then Randy Orton beat Edge at the greatest wrestling match ever at Backlash back in June. So it's 1-1, and it was always planned to be a trilogy, and Vince McMahon has his heart set on seeing Randy Orton versus Edge at WrestleMania in front of a crowd of people. So that is the plan, is to have Randy Orton versus Edge at WrestleMania. You would think going into that, considering that last time Edge and Randy Orton saw each other, not only did Randy Orton kick Edge in the skull, but he also tore the triceps off his arm, you would think that Randy Orton should have a bit of momentum going into that match, but he doesn't. All he's going to do is, going into that match, is have lost. He would have lost to Drew McIntyre a handful of times, and he would have lost to The Fiend. So where does that sit Randy Orton? Now, in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Not really, because like I said, he's Randy Orton. He is, I suppose, bulletproof at this point, but it does hurt the match when it's a main event marquee match at WrestleMania, which Edge and Randy Orton will be. So you do have to consider that. You do have to consider that. Is that an issue? Is that an issue that Randy Orton here just consistently loses? And going into this feud with Edge at WrestleMania because he's consistently losing, is that a problem? I think it is. Now, another way to look at this as well is that we have heard these rumors, of course, that The Fiend could be potentially facing Edge at WrestleMania. There have been those rumors that instead of Edge versus Randy Orton happening at WrestleMania, we could see Edge versus Randy Orton happen at the Royal Rumble, which then leads to The Fiend facing Edge at WrestleMania. Or you could see The Fiend and Alexa Bliss facing Edge and his wife Beth Phoenix at WrestleMania as well. Now, I floated that idea about the Edge and Beth Phoenix versus The Fiend and Alexa Bliss on social media a couple times. People really don't like that idea, well, according to my timeline anyway, which shocked me because I actually found that idea very interesting. I'm not one on seeing these WrestleMania rematches all the time. It's just not for me. When you see these WrestleMania rematches and you see things that we've seen before, that's the thing that really frustrated me the most about WrestleMania, the plans for WrestleMania this year in Hollywood or wherever it's going to be in Tampa Bay. Those things concerned me. Why? Because they were just rematches. They were essentially WrestleMania 36 card, but it was because the rumor was right. It was going to be Edge versus Orton. It was going to be Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre, and it was going to be Goldberg versus Reigns. That was the plan for WrestleMania 36. Why would we see that once again for WrestleMania 37? That was the concern there. And I did feel like maybe if we did see something different, if we did see Edge versus Bray Wyatt, if we did see Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, that could be a lot of fun. It could certainly be compelling to watch. It can certainly be interesting to watch. But a lot of people, when I floated it on social media, were like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a mixed tag at WrestleMania, which shocked me because I just felt like the idea of Edge, a WWE Hall of Famer, an icon, a legend of pro wrestling, putting over Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, isn't that what's right for business? Isn't that what's best for business? To me, at this point in his career, when Edge returned, the thing that I was excited the most about was seeing these potential matches against the current generation that we never thought he'd be able to face. Yes, Edge versus Randy Orton has been very good, and yes, their match at Backlash was actually exceptional. It was fantastic. One of the matches of the year. I mentioned that AJ Styles versus The Undertaker in the Boneyard match might have been the match of the year, but that greatest wrestling match ever might have been the match of the year in WWE too. Of course, there's lots of other options, and we'll see lots of lists coming out at this point of the year anyway. But the thing that excited me the most when Edge returned at the start of this year was thinking, man, imagine seeing Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt against these people we've never seen Edge face off against before. That was the most exciting thing to me there, not seeing Edge face Randy Orton 3 times in a row. That's fine, but it just feels like, man, I understand that Edge is back and it's a miracle and it's great, but the time is ticking. We do have a short window of time that we can have all of these great Edge matches in because he's not getting any younger. And again, we don't know how long the neck's going to hold out for. So I'm not against seeing Edge versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. If anything, I'd be maybe more excited to see that than Edge versus Randy Orton 3. I want to see Edge versus Randy Orton 3. We will see Edge versus Randy Orton 3. But I think it's most likely going to happen at the, it should happen at the Royal Rumble. And then we see something different at WrestleMania. If I had to predict now, though, I would assume that they're sticking to their guns, and it's going to be Edge versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. When it comes to Bray Wyatt, what's he going to do? I don't know. I really, really don't know at this point, because this is the guy that is arguably the most compelling, the most exciting aspect of Monday Night Raw. I've spoken several times here on the channel that Monday Night Raw isn't exciting. It's not must-see TV. It's boring, and a lot of the times it's difficult to watch. It's 3 hours, and no one cares about it. One of the things that is must-see, and one of the things that is exciting, and one of the things that does keep you glued to the TV is Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss on Monday nights. Now, if they don't have anything to do come WrestleMania season, that's going to be an issue. That is certainly going to be an issue, especially when they're going to come out of this feud, this match, with a victory, because they are going to win tonight. That is my prediction for them to win, for Bray Wyatt to win tonight. So certainly it's going to be interesting. Are we going to see an Edge appearance tonight? I don't think so. I wouldn't rule it out. But I don't think so. We've heard those reports about reactionary changes and things to get people watching on Monday Night Raw. Maybe bringing Edge back a little bit early, even if he is still recovering from the injury, might be the case that Vince McMahon is looking for when it comes to Monday night. So maybe we do see Edge get involved tonight. I don't know. When it comes to Alexa Bliss, I don't expect to see her tonight. Apparently she's on vacation or she's quarantining. She just filmed a movie project in California, and I think at the moment she's spending time with her fiance. So she hasn't really been a part of this feud for the last few weeks. It looked like she was going to be the focal point of this feud, and we just haven't seen that recently as she's been away from television. So I don't expect her to come back tonight. Maybe she will. Maybe that'll be the finish of the match. I don't know. Nevertheless, the thing I want to see the most, and I think the thing that most people would want to see the most, is that this is not a cinematic match, and it actually is an Inferno match, but I just don't think we're going to see a winner by setting the opponent on fire. I just can't see PG WWE in 2020 setting people on fire on WWE television. Even if it's on pay-per-view, even if it's on the network, I just don't see that happening. I suspect it's going to be like the Ring of Fire match at SummerSlam 2013, where the ring is surrounded by fire, but the way to win is by pinfall or submission. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the FireFly Inferno match tonight at Tables, Ladders and Chairs between Randy Orton and the Fiend Bray Wyatt? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, TLC, all that fun stuff here on the channel. We will be doing a watch along live for Tables, Ladders and Chairs tonight, so be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, click that notification bell, and you will be notified when we go live for the watch along. But get involved with the community as well. Drop a comment. All opinions are welcome here on the channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.